Vengeance by George Willson. Chapter 10. Keeping It Together. The Bluffs Mental Health Facility, referred to by local residents as the Happy Acres Rest Asylum, was a complex of large multi-storied white buildings connected by hallways, surrounded by fields of grass, and bordered with high electrified fences. Each of the individual wings had its own security station, and two of these wings were considered high security, in that they were set up specifically to prevent the more violent of mental patients from escaping, which made it more like a prison than a hospital. A white van with the Bluffs Mental Health Facility logo drove through the security station at the main gate. The hospital had regular visiting hours, but any visitor at any time had to go through the security station at the gate, even if their loved one was staying in the non-secure area. This arrangement worked well for the sort of detail I needed to keep these women safe. The van stopped under the awning in front of their wing, and an older gentleman stepped forward to open the van's sliding passenger door. He was dressed in slacks, dress shirt, tie, and sweater vest, and his white, thinning hair gave witness to his age, though he felt he had many years left within him. He smiled as he gazed at the 6 anxious faces that looked at him when he opened the van door. I had told him all about their situation, and not only was he willing to make sure that the wing was available to keep them safe, but he also offered any counseling they might need once the crisis was over. "Good evening, ladies. I'm Dr. Randall Quired," the old man said. He bid them welcome to his facility and had them walk inside to the security station. He closed the van door, and the driver left. He walked through the automatic glass doors to the security station, where Paul Wyatt, a security guard in his 30s, looked at the women as they stood nervously and waited. Paul and Dr. Quired exchanged friendly greetings as Quired indicated the bars to the right of the security station. "Are we supposed to search them or anything?" Paul asked. "Detective Thompson said they took care of that at the station before they got here," Quired said, and the women nodded in agreement. "Just the door, then." He turned to the women. "You will have to put anything metal you might have on you through the machine, of course." Quired dropped his keys into a container and sent it through the X-ray machine where Paul was able to see the contents on a monitor. Quired walked through the metal detector without incident and picked up his keys on the other side. Paul buzzed the barred door leading into the secure area open, and one by one the women followed suit as Quired held the door open for them on the other side. Once all 6 of them were inside the barred area, Quired closed the barred door and held a keycard up to a panel next to a steel door on the other side. The door opened inward to a short hallway, at the end of which was another steel door. Quired spoke to them as they walked to the other door. "This wing is constructed identically to the wing in use right now. They both are designed to hold maximum security patients. Steel doors, camera surveillance, electronic locks, the works. When a state hospital opened closer to the city, we lost a lot of our patients, but we do, however, keep it up, especially since the city council voted to use it for holding regular prisoners on a temporary basis. There are bars on all the windows and locks on the steel doors that are at every exit. This second door requires someone to be present at the security desk to buzz you in, along with a key card like I had at the other end. Not only can no one get out, but no one can get in either." "Feel guilty yet, anyone?" Darla asked cynically. "I feel safe anyway," Ashley commented. At the other steel door, Quired looked at the camera that stared directly at the door. Once he heard the door buzz, he used his key card to swipe the second lock, and he held the door, which opened into the hallway, open for the women to pass through. As soon as the last one was in, he followed in behind them to show them around. The door clanged shut behind them. He gave them a brief tour of the wing, showing the room's steel doors that would latch but not lock, as they all required keys to engage the locks. He showed them the gathering room where they could sit and watch television if they wished. He regretfully informed them that their cell phones would not work in the facility, since the hills surrounding the grounds block the cell signals from reaching the towers. There are some places where a marginal signal comes through, but rarely enough to do much of anything. They've asked for a tower or repeater, but so far they've been snubbed, so they primarily use landline phones. He showed them the phone in that area that they can use and gave them the numerical combination to attain an outside line. The last thing he did before leaving them for the evening was an hour or so later, when he introduced the night security guard to them, Arlene Johnson. She was a stocky, well-built woman with short, cropped brown hair, but a friendly enough face that would definitely shoot you if given the provocation. For the most part, the women were friendly enough, given the circumstances, and they all wished Arlene a good night. As Paul buzzed Quired and Arlene back out, he said to her, "They shouldn't give you any trouble, Arlene, but if anything happens, even if it seems insignificant, call me immediately." Arlene nodded and took Paul's seat as he exited with Dr. Quired. She stared into one of the security monitors showing the gathering room and the 6 women pacing, reading, or just staring at the walls, uncertain of what to do. Tricia was one of them who was getting stir-crazy quickly and pacing furiously. "Well, this is about as much fun as I can handle in one evening," she raved. "What are we supposed to do all night? I never go to bed this early." Mindy scoffed and never looked up from her Bible. "What Tricia means is she never goes to sleep this early." "But you're up past your bedtime, aren't you, God girl?" "Please stop calling me that. I prefer the term Jesus freak," Mindy replied with a snide smile to Tricia. "I think the idea in a place like this is to go to bed early." "But I'm not tired," Tricia whined. "Seriously, is this a conversation worth having?" Laura asked. "So, you're studying to be a doctor?" Ashley asked her, looking to talk about something to pass the time. "Yep," Laura replied, grateful to have another topic. "General practitioner. You?" "Journalism," Ashley replied. "I'll be there to report all your mistakes on national TV." Laura chuckled. "Hey, Dr. Laura," Tricia said loudly. "That's funny." "Oh, that's original," Laura rolled her eyes. "She's full of them," Mindy confirmed. "So, Ashley," Tricia said, diverting everyone's attention, "how did you come to be in this with Professor Michaels?" Ashley looked around nervously like a cornered animal. She really didn't have to answer, but everyone was looking at her, and she didn't really know how to get out of it. She sighed and shrugged her shoulders. "Okay, well, it was between semesters, and I was out at a club, right?" she began. "Well, this cute guy starts dancing with me, and I didn't know anything about him. Well, stupid kid I was," Tricia interrupted, hoping for a laugh, but received nothing of the sort. "For the love of God, Tricia, please be quiet," Mindy sighed. Tricia scoffed as if she had been gravely insulted, but Ashley continued. "Anyway, I went home with him and we fooled around. Well, I thought it was just another one-night stand. I mean, how many of those guys actually use the number you give them? Until he actually did call me, and I saw him a few more times over the summer. Always on Tuesdays, as I recall." Athena reacted, dropping her face and covering her eyes with a hand. She shook her head and whispered through the tears that were returning, "Just like clockwork." Ashley kept talking as if she hadn't heard. "And I thought we were getting close. Imagine my horror when I had him as a professor of psychology the very next semester. He didn't have a problem with it. I called it quits. Way too weird. He called a few more times, but I wouldn't talk to him. I was just so embarrassed." "That man had a knack for doing that to people," Darla assured her. "He would tell you just enough to get you into bed with him." Athena never lifted her head. "I am so bored," Tricia declared again, breaking the moment and bringing the attention back to her. "Then go to bed," Laura said, very annoyed. "No one is stopping you." "Dr. Quired suggested we room with someone," Darla said. "With 6 of us, that works out to 2 to a room." "Works for me," Mindy shrugged. Darla told everyone to follow her into the hall, and they all complied except Athena, who was more than grateful to be left alone. Looking down the hallway in the waning light of the sunset, they could see that the lights were only on in this hall, as down the hall and around the corner it was completely dark, or would be once the sun stopped shining in the windows. Darla led them into the first room to look it over again. All of the rooms looked exactly the same in that they each had 2 beds on opposite sides of the room and a wardrobe on one side. These beds were covered with some basic white linens, but nothing more. In fact, most of the rooms had only 1 bed, but knowing that these women were coming, Quired had the beds doubled up so that they could room together. "Ooh, do you think all the rooms are like this?" Tricia complained. She had said the same thing earlier with Quired, who had confirmed that, indeed, they were all the same except for the double beds. Laura was the one to sigh and field this one. "It's a health facility, so yeah." "All right, girls," Darla said in her authority voice. "We'll be staying in the first 3 rooms here. I doubt anything will happen tonight, even if one of us is the psycho, since we were checked rather intimately for weapons and such earlier. I'll take this room with Athena. The rest of you will take the next two down. Any questions?" "Yeah," Trisha piped up. "Seriously, do I have to pick one of these losers to room with?" "I'll spare everyone else the pain and deal with your complaining," Mindy offered. "How unselfish of you," Trisha muttered, crossing her arms. "Oh, did I mention I read the Bible out loud at night?" Mindy said with a smile. "Oh my God, no," Trisha said. "You can go on without me, Mindy." "What are you going to do?" Laura asked. "Lots of hallways in here," Trisha said, looking around. "I always work out. I figure I'll walk in here to at least get in some kind of workout." "We should really stay together," Ashley said nervously. "It would be a good idea," Darla agreed. "Has anyone noticed we're behind locked and secure doors?" Trisha said. "Give me a break." "Trisha, I really do think," Darla began, but Trisha interrupted her. "You know, I don't have to listen to you in here," Trisha said, getting right up on Darla. "You're in the same boat as the rest of us, for the same reason as the rest of us. You're no better than we are, so you're in no position to order anyone around. We're not at school in here, so your authority is meaningless." Trisha spun around and left the room to walk down the hallway. Darla was visibly shaken by the encounter, so when the other three turned to watch Trisha go, Darla remained as she was. Finally, Ashley turned back to Darla. "She'll be all right, right?" "Well, of course," Darla nodded, gathering herself back together. "We're completely safe in here. Go on to your room for now. I need to talk to Athena." The other three dispersed to their rooms as Darla walked back to the gathering room to find Athena sitting alone right where they'd left her. Darla stared at her for a long time until Athena finally acknowledged Darla's presence by looking at her. Darla moved into the room but paced nervously, clearly trying to summon the courage to talk to Athena about the elephant in the room between them. Athena just watched Darla silently. Darla finally sighed and sat in a chair across from Athena, whose face looked tired but betrayed no emotion. "Athena," Darla said before summoning her breath to continue, "can I be frank with you?" Athena shrugged. In fact, Athena would attest that she was quite burned out by the time Darla returned. She had cried over and over since the whole affair began with his death, and no matter how bad each day had been, each subsequent day just got worse. So nothing Darla would have to say would faze her. "Look," Darla continued, "I met Hank when he first got to the university. I didn't know he was married, and he didn't tell me. By the time I found out about you, I was already in love with the man. I was head over heels for him. I hated him for that." Darla looked at Athena, but Athena only looked at her through those tired eyes. Darla took a deep breath and continued. "I put him through hell trying to get him to be with me. When I found out about everyone else, I tried even harder. I gave him whatever he wanted, and he took it. I wish I hadn't." She paused again and looked at Athena, but Athena's expression had not changed. "I'm not a bad person, Athena. I'm really not. I made a mistake trying for Hank, and I regret it fully. I know that I can't change everything that's happened, and I know this won't make it feel any better, but for whatever it's worth—" Darla took a deep breath. "I'm sorry." This got Athena's attention. She cocked her head, narrowed her eyes, and smirked, disbelieving. "You're sorry?" Darla just let it all go. "I'm sorry he treated you the way he did. I'm sorry I treated you the way I did. I'm sorry for everything." Athena seemed to process this, but her face finally revealed the anger of a woman scorned, pitted against the woman who scorned her. Her eyes darted back and forth as if thinking of the best way to phrase her thoughts without completely exploding. She took a deep breath, followed by a controlled exhale, and then bit her bottom lip as she pondered her words. "While I appreciate your honesty," Athena began in a level tone, "here's what I'm going through. I had an image of Hank as the perfect husband, and if all I had to deal with were his death, that would be hard enough. But I had an additional bomb dropped on me in the form of you and everyone else in this place, which told me that my life as I knew it was nothing but a lie. A horrible, senseless lie that I played into the entire time we were together. Whatever you think you're going through as a result of this inconvenience cannot come close to the hell I'm experiencing right now, so... Athena paused and took another breath to contain herself. Please go away. Is there anything I can do? Darla asked as sincerely as she could. Nothing anyone can do, Athena replied levelly. If you want to talk, Darla offered. I would have nothing to say, Athena brusquely interrupted her, and she locked her eyes on Darla's. Though Darla knew Athena had blue eyes, the pale color had deepened to the point of nearly black, so when they locked onto Darla, Darla knew the conversation was over. She sat locked in Athena's gaze for a moment before she finally nodded and left the room. As soon as she was alone again, Athena closed her eyes, and while she did not cry necessarily, she could not stop the flow of the tears which came so regularly lately.